I mentioned a bit. I mentioned a bit about filming a bit more long form content. And for those who may not be aware, I actually, when I first got TEW 2020, this was where I went to first because 1970 was the first database I downloaded. And um, I I know that 1987 seemed to have been my go-to, but I think I need to clean up 1987 a little bit before. Excuse me. I think I need to clean up 1987 a little bit before I go back to it. Not to say that it's a bad file, it's just that the amount of television that is in that file is a little bit much, if that makes sense. That the amount of television that you have to do in that file is a little bit much. That's all it is. That's all I'm saying. Um, and if the amount of television was a little bit less, then it would be a little bit better. We could put Little Beaver and Sky Lolo. Usually I do tag team matches with these guys, but I chose to do a one-on-one match just to test the waters of a one-on-one match. That Paula K defeated Mula and thus deserves the shot first. Also, I just signed Lance Russell to be in the announce booth with Bill Cardle because unfortunately I just lost my TV deal with WICC or WIIC, and basically, unlike TW16, which I actually like, it is that I can jump right to another television company and get back on television instantaneously, as opposed to having to wait to get on television because of circumstances outside of my control. That being, well, that being the fact that I can't. Well, that being the fact that they don't like the fact that I just got removed from television for bad ratings. When it's not that I was getting bad ratings, it's just that I wasn't meeting the minimum requirement for the ratings on WIIC. So that was making it where, because of the fact that I wasn't meeting the ratings, it was making it where I would be getting in trouble and getting the warnings every week, pretty much, from WIIC about bad ratings, even though my ratings were not that bad. You know what I mean? So there's that. Bobo, I will put Toru Tanaka has volunteered to challenge you for the U.S. title. Because for those who don't know, the U.S. Championship back in the day was very prominently featured as the main secondary title in most American companies, especially in the NWA, because the NWA World's title was the main world title. And to avoid confusion, especially in Detroit, I know this offhand, especially in Detroit, the United States title was the featured prominent title in that promotion to avoid confusion between having a world title and then the NWA World Heavyweight title. Even though most fans knew that the NWA World Heavyweight title was the most prominently featured championship in any promotion in the world, the NWA title was the title. The question was, like that's why they would have the United States title as a secondary title to avoid having a world title as the world title. But the WWF or the WWWF, as I am, is not in the NWA, so technically the United States title is my secondary title. And the world title held by Bruno is my main world title. The difference is our loose association. See, what I was going to do was I was going to have Gary Hart put up his contract, like like that he wouldn't be able to manage in the tri-state area for 30 days or 6 months or whatever the case is, that he would have to walk away from the territory because because basically Gary's contract's up. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world seeing Gary Hart leave, but at the same time, seeing Gary Hart leave would be a little like, do I need to do that now or could I get another match? Because the inevitability is Bobo versus Ivan Koloff, in my opinion. The inevitability is Bobo versus Ivan Koloff. Of course, the inevitability is also Bruno versus Ivan Koloff, but that's beside the point. Um, and not just because, of the fact that uh, Ivan is the one that dropped the belt to Bruno. I mean, you know what I'm saying. Ivan beat Bruno for the belt. It's not because of that. Like, I'm not trying to remain with history. I love Ivan Koloff. I always have. Any season I'm in, especially, 1987, 1983, whatever, in the 1980s, if I have Ivan Koloff is going to be a prominently featured person in my company because I love Ivan Koloff. Um, so Ivan is likely going to be the one that beats Bobo Brazil if he's not Waldo Von Erich is. Because Waldo and Ivan Koloff are, neck and neck as far as, Waldo and Ivan Koloff are neck and neck um, as far as that's concerned. Did What was the last match with No Holds Barred? Ignore me if you must, Bruno, but you and I both know we have unfinished business. Needs a cage. See, anybody who knows anything about WWF at this time or WWWF at this time knows that the formula was Bruno goes 3 months, maybe six, with an opponent while Bruno is fighting Killer Kowalski. Then they're grooming Waldo Von Erich to take Killer's spot after Killer's done to cycle in Waldo Von Erich. And then you cycle in the next person, and then you cycle in the next person. Which, thinking about it like that, what? You have four different people feud with Bruno over the course of a year, maybe three, depending on the length of the feud, because especially if the guys go 6 months and they're making money, then it's sort of like it's not that hard for the person to hold the belt for a year. Because I already got Pedro Morales coming in to be groomed, to wet the palate for the fans of Pedro coming in. I already have um, Bill Miller in. I have Gorilla as the step below Bruno to build up Waldo and to build up well, actually Ernie Ladd. But so I have every intention of keeping the belt on Bruno until the end of the year. I have every intention of keeping the belt on Bruno until the end of the year. It's just a matter of who I put Bruno with because there's no definitive thing of Ivan Koloff taking the belt off Bobo. I could put the belt on Waldo and uh hold off on Bruno. I mean, hold off on Ivan, but it's just going back and forth because I actually don't have I oh, these are retired. I actually only had we have the women's title with Tony Rose. We have the tag team titles, Bobo and then Bruno. So it's not that I have like a secondary title, and we're not in the NWA, so I can't take one of the NWA titles and put it on the guy that doesn't get you know what I mean. So I am tempted to go back to the NWA because WWW back at this time Vince Senior did decide to go back to the NWA, and I believe mid to early '71. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary, but it's just something I'm considering at this time. But good to see Lance Russell. I love Lance Russell almost as much as I love Ernie Ladd. And just to point out, in all the seasons I've done in this game, I have never worked before I did the Inside TEW with the 1983, where I'm in 1986, I believe at this point. That's the first time I worked with Ernie Ladd because I brought Ernie Ladd to fight Bruno. I mean, to fight Andre. I brought Ernie Ladd in to fight Andre. So that's the first time I actually did stuff with Ernie Ladd. And now working with Ernie Ladd here, or working Ernie Ladd here, I love working with Ernie Ladd. Honestly. And I got to take Bobby Davis out of the. I got to return and take Bobby Davis out. I can't let Bobby Davis um do that shit anymore. Yeah, you're definitely not working the main event, bro. Might pay to bring in another road agent. But, it's just and honestly, I wasn't sure I was how much I was going to enjoy going into the 1970s because it's a delicate space, 1970s. But seeing all the guys that I know from collecting, and you don't like, I was this close to bringing in Wild Bill Longson, even though Bill Longson may not be the most known person in the tri-state. He's a legend in the wrestling business during this time, and to do something with him in this, like I never thought I'd work Bill Longson in to a TEW season. You know what I mean? So it's just like I'm doing things in this season that I never expected to be able to do. Working with Bruiser Brody when he first comes in, a young Roddy Piper, young Terry Funk, Randy Savage when he first comes in, Buddy Rose, the Von Erichs, you know, Sergeant Slaughter, Ric Flair, a young Bobby Shane. I've never worked Bobby Shane, like I've never had Bobby Shane in a TW. Like the amount of like history in a season like this, it's insane. It's insane. It's even better than the 1980s. I love the 1980s, and I would love to figure out a way to work the 1987 database into working for me. But right now, my go-to 1970. Simple as that. And this establishes the relationship now with Tony Angelo and Tony Altmore, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, especially because once Lou Albano comes back, Altmore goes back to the tag team division. So one loss to Bruno, especially to Bruno, won't hurt the guy. Of course, I get a 64. I actually do a lot better doing this weekly TV show, this weekly event, which we're going to be doing now for the month of March, as I hold off on bringing back a TV show for right now, and then we slowly but surely bring back the television show in the month of April. But the reality is, I wasn't sure. The fact that Argentina Apollo, I could get Argentina Apollo, I could get Antonio Araca and bring him in. Antonio Rocca was one of the biggest stars in the tri-state before Bruno. Where is he? Yeah, Argentina and Rocca. I can get him and bring him in 70 in popularity. Like, do you know how much that would help? Which actually I might do that next year or close to the end of the year to bring him in and maybe a dream match with Mil Mascaras. I mean, imagine that. Argentina Rocca, the original high flyer, against Mil Mascaras. Like, shit's legendary. Even though Mil Mascaras might not be that popular in the tri state, that's actually what I should do. I should bring Mil Mascaras in now, get him some popularity in my territory, then bring him back at the end of the year to feud with Argentina Rocca, or even have a one-off exhibition match with Argentina Rocca just to say I did the match. Because that's kind of the point of some of these. It's the idea of I had this guy. I gave him a run. I worked with the guy. I did something with him. And it's just like, it's crazy to me the amount of people that they have in this. Like, next to 1987, I applaud the guy who made the 1987 file or the 1987 database. But next to that database, this database, I applaud the guy who made this because the amount of history he put into this database, it's insane. I'm thinking about bringing in Tex McKenzie. I'm thinking about bringing in Freddie Blassie. I'm thinking about bringing in, like, I wanted to bring in Jim Londas, but I don't know that Jim Londas would actually come in because of the fact that he's 73 years old. So I don't know how it would work with bringing in somebody like that because anybody over the age of 65 in TEW 16 would not want to come in. They would not come into the territory. Jack Donovan. Like the amount of people in this database that I've heard Jim Cornette talk about in his, escapades into the history of wrestling. Hardboiled Haggerty. We're bringing it. I just brought in the Valiant Brothers, Guy Mitchell and John L. Sullivan. I'm repackaging John L. Sullivan as one of the Valiant Brothers. Guy Mitchell's coming back or coming in for a run, and he's going to be teaming with Johnny and Jerry Valiant. Jimmy Valiant's is Jimmy Valiant in yet? Yeah, Jimmy Valiant's here too. He's probably is he not working with Guy Mitchell up in? Yeah, well, I mean he's working in the territory, but they're not working together. But I'm having a lot of fun doing this database. And we got the pay-per-view coming up with Bruno Sammartino's feud with Killer Kowalski reaching an apex, reaching an apex with Killer Kowalski and Bruno Sammartino. And the crazy thing is, I noticed it right now, and I noticed it when I was doing the stream talking about the collection, which actually will probably be popping up on YouTube soon. Um, which I probably have to also deal with Johnny Rods and Jim Grabmeyer, who are probably pissed off about not being used. But I brought in young Bob Armstrong, Terry Funk. I'm loving this. You know what I mean? But let's go to pre-booking for a sec. Wait, what? That's actually what I should have did. I should have just brought back the house show. Um, because that's like I love the 1987 database. Don't get me wrong, but the 1987 database is a little overwhelming. That's all it is. It's just a little overwhelming. That's it. You know what I mean? It's just a little overwhelming. If I had to put words to it, Pedro's in. I was also going to bring Stan Stasiak in, but at the same time, I kind of feel like Stan Stasiak is, um, how do you put it? Oh, he's exclusively signed to Portland, I think. So I don't really want to steal him away from Portland. But Whitey Caldwell, Buddy Colt, Jim Wilson, uh, what's his name? Ron Wright, Ron and Don Wright. Again, the amount of people I've heard only talked about in Jim Cornette's podcast or other podcasts, it's insane. Bearcat Wright, the medics, um, the Torres brothers. I inducted the Torres brothers into the Hall of Fame in my other TEW season, and they never worked in the WWF. The Alaskans. The fact that the Alaskans are actually still have stuff left in their career. The fact that Dick the Bruiser's territory, did not just immediately go out of business. Haystacks Calhoun is active. Sputnik Monroe is active. Like I could go on and on and on, and that's the point I was actually going to make. That I heard it in the season, and I'm hearing it now. That you could hear the passion in my voice when I talk about this stuff. You could hear the excitement in my voice when I talk about this stuff, and it's not always noticed by me. I mean, it might be noticed by some people. I think it was noticed by Vic when I was talking to him and doing that stream with him back in the day, back a couple weeks ago. But um, he he even said it. He said it best. You can notice it. Like you could go hours and hours and hours talking about certain things. Like he can do that with hot sauce, and I could do it with professional wrestling. Like I've been a professional. I know this guy from somewhere. I forget what gimmick he had, but I know this guy from somewhere. Stan Polanski. I know the guy from somewhere. Um, he could talk about hot sauce, and I could talk about this. I mean, I've been a wrestling fan for nearly 25 years, so it's something that isn't that difficult for me to talk about. You know what I mean? Jack Briscoe's still active. Sam Steamboat. I've only seen Sam Steamboat as a retired road agent. And I am basing it off of, but it's helping me learn other people. Red Bastien, Frankie Lane, Smasher Sloan, Dan Miller. What's that guy's name? He's up in Canada. Well, we'll find out. Missouri Mauler, Abe Jacobs, Sailor Art Thomas. Like again, the list could go on and on and on and on and on about different people. Dale Lewis, that's his name. The list could go on and on and on. Like I remember being in starting this game up for the first time on my PC, going into the 1970 database and noticing wow, Pat O'Connor and Luthez in St. Louis, and then immediately wanting to go to St. Louis, and then realizing I should go to somewhere I know the people and I know how to book, not St. Louis just because of one match. But Johnny Valentine, Pat O'Connor, Waldo. I mean, you guys are gonna get tired of me naming people by the end of it, but it's just something that the list can go on and on and on about the amount of people not only that I want to bring in, but the amount of people that I'm excited to have in this company. I mean, the one thing I would like is if actual real people were coming in more often, and it's not just the computer generated people, which is one thing that I'm afraid, one thing that I was worried about. But like, this is not like meant to be a long term thing. This season is more meant to just get me comfortable with TW 2020. To understand TW 2020, to understand the concept, and to understand what it takes to get to the certain positions within TEW. You know what I mean? That's all it is. Because there are some people, like I said, like the guy went as far as the 1990s, where Chris Jericho comes in. You can have a young Jake Roberts. I've seen a young Tommy Rich and a young Barry Windham in the 1980 database. I've worked with those guys in that database, and I don't mean it as I've worked with them as in, I know what they're like, blah 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 blah. It's that I've been able to do things with. Like, it makes you feel like you work with them, like you can have the opportunity to have talent that you never thought you would actually handle, especially in WWE 2K, because you're so limited. Your hands are tied with that database or with that game. You know what I mean? So this is actually the go home show for the pay per view. From what I understand, from what I'm figuring, I think. So I don't know if I'm going to go all the way through because I don't really know what's going to be on the pay per view yet. But what I do know is that long form content like this is what I want to put out. I would love to go back to the documentaries, but I would need to find a way to, work the documentary in rather than, like work it out. Like I'm not just going to put it out for the sake of putting it out. I would need to figure out a way to work the documentary in and work things out with it. You know what I mean? Like figure it out. Because I'm done, I just don't want to just put out content for the sake of putting out content. I'd rather know what I'm doing beforehand. You know what I mean? I would rather know what I'm doing beforehand, and I can't do that without knowing everything that has like doing a little smidgen of planning beforehand. Just putting people on notice that they have their eyes on championship gold. But yeah, again, I think I'm gonna end it here. I know it's an odd place to end it, but I don't know. I would rather take my time running through the show, and I know that's kind of the point of the long form. Uh, um, yeah, let's work it out. Let's work it out. We can work it out. Um, See, the Sicilians were supposed to be challenging for the tag team titles, but Lou Albano got hurt, so they can't. Simple as that. I know you think you're done with me, but I will make you regret. I will make you regret making you think you can make me look like a fool. Because initially Bob Ellis was trying to be recruited by JJ Dillon. Yeah, I'm just gonna book the show. I'm just gonna book the show. Yeah. See, initially Terry Funk was supposed to come in as a tag team with Bob Armstrong, but I think it would be better just to let Terry work on his own and maybe just come in as Terry Funk. A heel. My name is Terry Funk. This is before he was crazy though, because he didn't start changing it. His style didn't start changing until the late '70s after he became world champion. which means I deserve your respect because my name holds weight. My brother, my father, my name holds weight. And we'll probably throw in that Killer Kowalski will be here. We'll probably throw in that, what's his name? Will be here. Um, Pedro Morales will be making his debut next week. I think I'm going to drop one or two matches on the pre-show too. I also forgot to take Bobby Davis out as a road agent. Another thing that I like about this game is that they don't have to be under written contracts to give you the ability to write them off and to send them away for a little bit. Because I did that to the Valiant brothers as a way to, how do you miss me if I'm not? How do I miss you if you're not going to go away? Terry's not capable of being a road agent yet. He should just focus on being a wrestler. He's 25 years old, and I think Bob. I know Bob's actually just a road agent. I mean, just a wrestler. Baron. Throw him in there with Bob Armstrong on the B show. I mean, the pre-show, not the B show. Just to work him. And this way, these guys can work too. I mean, hindsight being what it is, I probably should have set it up for maybe closer to like an hour and a half, rather than an hour. But actually, one of these, let's put George Steele on the actual show. No, let's put George Steele on the actual show. I accept your challenge for one last match at the event inside a steel cage. I also should probably turn a light on. Not like it makes much of a difference, but it does. Let's just see how this show goes, and then we'll wrap things up. Guess it's good I put it on the pre-show then, huh? Solid opening, I think. I would just like to, I would just like to see JJ getting better and better and better and better as he progresses up. You know what I mean? That's all I want is JJ to get better. Because I love JJ Dillon. I love Gary Hart. I love the pairing and how I worked it out with JJ and Ivan Koloff. Bruno. I thought I took Bobby Davis out as whatever. I mean, the problem with Cowboy Bob is that Cowboy is an okay wrestler, but he's in the twilight of his career, and he was never a good talker. Or maybe he was maybe he was at one point, but I feel like he was more one of those not WWWF talkers. You know what I mean? He was more he was more um he was more not he was more a promotion where talking wasn't the strong suit. And in this case, I see that Bill Cardle helped Terry Funk through the segment, which is what I wanted. Okay. So I need to get over a 50. I mean, over a 60 for it to be a good show. Skandar Akbar is actually an active wrestler still. So that's, even more of a point. You know what I mean? That's even more of a point as to how different things are. But I know you guys are used to the lights being on and someone being home, but the lights are out, but someone's home. Um, I totally forgot to run the segment with that, and I know Dick Brower is pissed off because I haven't used him either. Um, so we gotta work that out before we go. But I mean, it's hard to use somebody who you've had keep losing, I guess. Let's just give him 2 weeks off. Now I have 4 people. Now I have 4 people on vacation. Um, so they don't count towards the roster. That's the Valiants, Dick Brower, and Lou Albano because Lou's injured. But yeah, this is WWF. There's a little bit more stability here. We're about 4 days away from the end of the month show. We'll be back with regular television next month. We lost the TV earlier in the month, and I'm pretty sure I'd be able to. I'm pretty sure I'd be able to just like they didn't show that I couldn't. They showed that I could reopen television rights, and maybe I could work out something better for WWF as far as television rights. I totally forgot to do the segment hyping the debut of Pedro Morales. So, oh well. But either way, this is WWF. I'm enjoying it a lot, as you can see. And if you guys like stuff like this, let me know down in the comment section below. You can always let me know that. Also, let me know that by leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, because any and all interactions with the video do help. And do not forget before you go to ding that notification bell next to the subscription box, because it helps. Well, it helps you and it helps me because that means you want to know when the videos are coming up, and it helps you get notified when the videos do go live. Because that's the only way that you can do it. You have to ding on that bell to know when new videos posted on the channel, so there is a benefit to it. And also, it doesn't automatically click it if you subscribe. You have to click it yourself because YouTube doesn't want to make it easy. Either way, though, guys, I do appreciate you hanging out and watching the video, and I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. See you next time.